Have you ever heard a remix of a song you absolutely love and just thought, how in the world did they do that? Well, today we're going to pull back the curtain. We're going to deconstruct the anatomy of a remix piece by piece and really see what makes it tick.
I mean, seriously, we hear that word everywhere, right? On the dance floor, all over the pop charts. But what's actually happening when a track gets remixed? What's the real difference between the original song and this new, reimagined version? Let's dive in.
So, at its absolute core, a remix is just a reinterpretation. It's like taking a song that already exists, with its melody and vocals, and starting a brand new creative conversation with it. You end up with something that feels familiar, but at the same time, totally new. So think about it like this. On one side, you've got the original track. That's your blueprint, your foundation. The remix takes that same blueprint and it completely rebuilds the house. Maybe the tempo gets a huge boost, or they add a totally new driving drum beat. Or maybe the vocals are suddenly echoing out into space. It's that clever twist that makes it all feel so fresh. Okay, so how is a remix actually built from the ground up? To figure that out, we've got to start peeling back the layers and find its most basic, most fundamental component. Right. If a remix is like a house, what's the very first brick you lay down? What's that one single core element that everything else is built on top of? It's the loop. This is the secret ingredient for sure. It could be a really short drum pattern, a super catchy synth line, or even just a tiny little snippet of a vocal that just plays over and over and over again. This simple, almost hypnotic repetition, that's the heartbeat of so much of the music we love. It's what gets stuck in your head and makes you want to move. And this is a perfect way to think about it. A loop really does contain all the essential information: the rhythm, the key, the entire vibe of the track. Just like our own DNA, this one small, repeating pattern basically dictates what the entire creation is going to grow into. Okay, so we've got our loop, our musical DNA. But let's be honest, a single loop playing by itself can get a little boring. The real magic, where all the richness and depth comes from, is when you start building with layers. It's kind of like cooking. Your loop is your base. Let's say it's your pasta. The layers are everything else you add to make the final dish. The drums, the bass line, the keyboards, the vocals. Each layer adds a totally new flavor and complexity to the overall texture. And here's how it often works in practice. You start with that foundation, a solid, rhythmic beat, your main drum loop. Then you bring in the bass loop to give it that groove, that feel. On top of that, you weave in the melody line, the really catchy part you can't get out of your head. And finally, you sprinkle in all the other textures, like little sound effects or extra percussion, to complete the whole picture. All right, here's a little challenge for you. The next time you've got your headphones on, try to listen actively. See if you can hear just the drums. Then, try to focus only on the bass line. Try to mentally pull apart each layer. I promise you'll start to hear music in a completely new way. It's pretty cool. So we've got our loops and we've got our layers, but just a random pile of loops and layers, that's not a song. It needs some organization. It needs to take you on a journey. It needs structure. And this is something we're all familiar with, even if we don't realize it. The structure is basically the song's roadmap. It tells us when to build up all that energy for the chorus, when to pull it back for the verse, and of course, when to bring in that big epic drop. It's the architecture that holds all those layers together. And the perfect place to see all these ideas, the loops, the layers, and the structure, all coming together is in electronic dance music, or EDM. I mean, this genre is literally built for this stuff. The tracks are designed in sections so a DJ can seamlessly mix one into the next, creating this one long, continuous musical journey for the entire night. Now, you might be thinking all of this sounds very modern, very digital. But what if I told you that the core idea behind all of this is actually centuries old? That's right. This fundamental concept of the loop, this little repeating musical phrase that forms the backbone of a track, has been an incredibly powerful tool for composers for a very, very long time. Get this, in classical music, they called it an ostinato. Then you jump forward to jazz and they call it a riff, that unforgettable saxophone or piano line that just hooks you right in. And today, in electronic music, we just call it a loop. The technology has changed, obviously, but the core musical idea is exactly the same. So, from Bach to a jazz legend to a modern DJ, great musicians have always understood the fundamental power of repetition to build the foundation of their music. It's just a brilliant idea that keeps getting reinvented.
And that brings us to a final, pretty fascinating thought. With today's technology, these incredibly powerful tools of looping, layering, and remixing are literally in everyone's hands. You don't need $1 million studio anymore. So what does that mean for the future of musical creativity? Where does it all go from here? Makes you wonder, doesn't it?